out of 10 people queuing are here to see just one thing. The Louvre's most famous portrait, probably the world's most famous portrait, the Mona Lisa. So what is it about this picture which has won hearts all over the world? Because in the end, it's just a portrait. A young woman twists her head towards us, peering out of a smoky landscape through cracks and darkened varnish. And that's about it. And yet, she is magnetic. In the flesh, she is captivating. So what's her secret? Or rather, what was Leonardo da Vinci's secret? Well, to unfold the tale of this painting and the astonishing man who created it, we must swap the centre of Western art in the 21st century for the most humming, fashionable and culturally swaggering city of the 15th, the birthplace of the biggest artistic revolution the West has ever seen, Renaissance Florence.
A visitor to Florence in 1459 said Florence is paradise on earth. It was a very prosperous city, but it was also a city with intellectual and cultural life. People enthused about how the Florentines had created a new golden age through painting, through music, through architecture. And so Florence was really a kind of crucible of a new kind of modern life or a new approach to culture.
Whether you were an artist or whether you were a scholar, whether you were interested in the sciences, it was all happening at the same time. It was like the centre of the universe.
Renaissance simply means rebirth, a return to the glory days of ancient Greece and Rome. Multi-talented and brilliant minds were drawn here like bees to a flower garden. But in a city of 70,000 people, there was one person who really represents what we now mean by the term Renaissance man. Leonardo da Vinci, the man who painted the Mona Lisa, was born nearby in April 1452.
He came from a two-horse town, or maybe a one-horse town, called Vinci. It's about 20 miles from Florence. His family were small-time landowners, not incredibly rich. His father was a notary, a lawyer, making his living in Florence. He's listed in his grandfather's tax return. He's listed as a bocca, a mouth, which is rather a nice thing to call your kids their mouths, so they eat a lot of food.
From a very early age, Da Vinci was extremely intelligent, and he went to a very good school, and he showed a great love of anything visual, and he would go out sketching, and apparently he drew with his right hand and wrote with his left hand. You know, so you can imagine him with being so inspired and not wanting to waste a moment that he would be sort of going like this.
His family took note of this precocious ability.
They saw that he had a talent for drawing, and he produced a whole book of drawings, and later on his father took him to Florence to a great artist of the time, Verrocchio, and said, look at these drawings, my son did it. And apparently Verrocchio was just dumbfounded, said, I've never seen drawings like this. Are you sure this is your son, and how old is he, and send him to me at once.
For the teenage Leonardo, this apprenticeship with Verrocchio was like a child footballer being coached by Pep Guardiola. A huge opportunity to learn from the formidable Verrocchio.
He's an interesting artist, a major sculptor. His studio produced paintings, and he used senior assistants often to produce the paintings. Visitors to Florence may notice that on top of the cathedral dome, built by Brunelleschi, the great architect, there's a very big bronze ball, and Verrocchio put that up there.
During the nearly 11 years that Leonardo was his student, Verrocchio worked to polish the young man's obvious artistic skills and draw out his immense natural talent. This meant working together on a huge range of commissions from the church and important Florentine families. A major artist in his own right, Verrocchio must have guessed that his student would one day surpass him. But just how soon would that be?
Verrocchio used all of the young painters very wisely in his workshop productions. And one of these paintings is the Baptism of Christ, now in the Uffizi in Florence. And he told Leonardo da Vinci to paint one of the angels in the work, an angel in the lower left-hand corner of the painting.
You look at that angel, the draperies are amazing, the hair is absolutely fantastic. It's very urgent kind of expression, and it seems almost certain that Leonardo did all the fancy oil painting finish in this picture. And the story of one of his biographers is that from that point onwards, Verrocchio said, "I'll never touch a brush again."
From the very beginning, Leonardo was regarded as an unparalleled genius. At the remarkably tender age of 20, the man who would paint the Mona Lisa qualified as a master craftsman, and 6 years later he received his first solo commission to paint an altarpiece for his local chapel. In gossipy Florence, his reputation was spreading. But this wasn't down to hard graft or even innate skill. When we talk of genius, in Leonardo's case, that meant a hungry appetite for all kinds of knowledge: mathematics, poetry, engineering, hydraulics, optics, measurements of all kinds. And it was his frankly gruesome experiments in anatomy that provide one of the clues to his painting of the Mona Lisa. With a host of potential clients, Leonardo would begin work on the portrait that would define his entire career. But the mystery for many centuries was who exactly it was that he'd painted.
The commission for the Mona Lisa has various stories, and each of them are fascinating.
I suppose the most fashionable in the last sort of 20 years of the daft ideas is that this is Leonardo's pupil, Salai, this rascally but rather handsome pupil with curly hair. That it's a portrait of Salai in drag.
Some people said she was his mother. Some people said she was the Virgin Mary or the Duchess of Milan.
Some people say it's a self-portrait of him whilst he's dealing with his homosexual tendencies, and at that time being a homosexual was against the law.
It seems that this extraordinary picture must have an extraordinary explanation, but in fact this extraordinary picture has a sober explanation.
And the sober answer to the mystery is found in where Leonardo was living and in his father's business relationships.
Also connected with the Santissima Annunziata is Francesco del Giocondo. He was a silk merchant in Florence, and we know that he and Leonardo's father knew each other and that they had had business dealings with each other. And so one could very easily imagine Leonardo's father suggesting perhaps that Francesco commissioned a portrait of his wife, Lisa, from Leonardo.
That this was the case was proved beyond doubt in 2005, when a German librarian found a note written by one of Leonardo's contemporaries, wondering if he would leave the portrait of Francesco del Giocondo's wife, Lisa Gherardini, unfinished. So what do we know about her? She was only 24. She was the wife of a fairly wealthy trader in silks and fabrics, and possibly also in slaves, who was himself a client of Leonardo's father, a notary or lawyer. So they knew the family. It's said that Leonardo used acrobats and musicians and clowns to keep Mona smiling, because it's difficult when you're painting somebody to avoid their face becoming rather frozen with concentration. But if you look closely at her smile, I don't think it's an amused smile particularly. I think it's a sardonic, knowing smile. This is somebody who is staring at us just as hard as we are all staring at her.